Hi everyone, this is Mr. Kraus coming to you not live but pre-recorded, of course. And I have a special surprise.
Hello, this is Mrs. Kraus.
I thought it'd be kind of fun for you guys to hear Mrs. Kraus, and she was kind enough to join us on this little screencast. We're going to talk about the context of CQT.
What is CQT?
So I'm going to go fast, guys, so don't forget, this is considered a review for sophomores. And Mrs. Kraus, I'm so glad you asked. CQT stands for Context Quote Tie-In.
Well, what is CQT for?
CQT, Mrs. Kraus, is something the English department agreed on as a strategy to help our students, you guys, the listeners, the audience of this screencast, to help you guys add textual evidence or quotes to your essays. And really, it's just a simple process. But today's screencast is going to focus on the context. So let's talk about context of CQT.
What is context?
Context has a particular purpose, and it is to introduce the quote that you, the audience, have chosen to add power to your own words, your own opinion.
Well, what is context?
I'm so glad you asked, Mrs. Kraus. It's a short summary of what occurs right before the quote. And there's just a couple of things to remember.
Can I possibly see an example of what you're talking about?
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, for making this video, it applies to a wonderful short story by Amy Tan. She's the writer of Joy Luck Club. Did you ever read that story?
Oh yes, that's a wonderful story.
It's a good novel, and she has a great short story called Two Kinds. Anyways, guys, if you'll recall, this is an excerpt of that story. I'm going to grab the quote down here at the bottom about the mother grabbing the daughter and making her practice the piano.
What are the tricks to context?
Well, Mrs. Kraus, I like to break it up into 4 simple things to do. So here you go, guys. Summarize what's occurring right before the quote, not the entire story, and certainly not an entire novel. Number 2, keep it short. Number 3, present tense. That's easier said than done. And lastly, add a tag phrase before you give that all too important quote. Coming back to the example, guys, again, this is a smaller version of what I already showed you. I went ahead and highlighted the quote I was going to choose. A little bit of active reading there for you guys. And Ms. Kraus, would you do us a favor and read the context on the screen?
Sure. Jing Mei is arguing with her mother in the apartment after Jing Mei is refusing to practice the piano. She then says,
Thank you so much. So guys, let's take a closer look at this. We have the who, right? We have Jing Mei and the mother. We also have the what, arguing, and we have a where. We have the apartment. Finally, the 4th step is to include this tag phrase. She then says, and there's lots of ways to do that.
Can I see another example?
I'm so glad you asked, Mrs. Kraus. I figured that would be a good idea as well. Let's take a look, guys, at another example. Mrs. Kraus, can you read it again since you read so wonderfully?
Sure.
Let me zoom in for a sec. There you guys go.
After a poor recital, Jing Mei, the protagonist, decides not to practice the piano. The narrator then says,
Oh no, Mrs. Kraus, do you see a typo?
I sure do.
That's alright, I'll be sure to fix it next time. You guys, that just points out writing isn't the easiest thing, and it needs revision and constant work. So, hopefully, besides the mistake, you notice some stronger language, and that's what makes this context a little different. Let's take a look at the 2 contexts side by side. Here's the original. Jing Mei is arguing, and here's the second example. After a poor recital, Jing Mei, the protagonist, decides not to practice the piano. The narrator then states. First thing you guys should notice is there's no verb to be, no little verb to be in this example that's a more academic and stronger example. Also, I apologize for that. Zoom back in. Also, another thing that makes English teachers sad is No challenging language, no vocabulary from whatever your English teacher has been teaching you, or there are no literary terms. So if you take a look at the example that's stronger, you can certainly see the use of academic language. Mrs. Krause, do you mind reading the top example one more time?
Sure. After a poor recital, Jing Mei, the protagonist, decides not to practice the piano. The narrator then states, she...
And then the quote would follow, right guys? And so Mrs. Krause, did you notice I went ahead and fixed the mistake?
I sure did. Great job, Mr. Krause.
Thanks for helping, Mrs. Krause. So guys, that pretty much wraps up our lecture. Hopefully you followed the screencast along, and remember, if you get stuck, feel free to pause, rewind, rewatch, or fast forward if it's a little too slow for you guys. And at this point, you should be able to tell me what context is on a quiz or in an essay. You should be able to do it. And as a friendly reminder, don't forget the 4 steps. So context is a means or a method to introduce quotes. And the 4 steps are a short summary, present tense, and don't forget that all too important tag phrase. Thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Krause.
And Mrs. Krause.
Have a great day, guys, and I look forward to seeing you on the next school day.